How's it going?
I'm good. How about you?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good.
Back into the grind now, right off the bat, right?
Yeah, the Canucks look a little rusty and dusty themselves.
I know, right? The rusty and dusty first period, eh? Too many men calls, and I literally
Yeah,
I wasn't watching when the second one happened, and then they showed the highlight. I thought it was the same one.
yeah. I think Talkett's back there yelling nicknames for Team Canada or something, and the boys are getting confused. Like, who, me or who you talking about? Me or them or?
Yeah. Sid and Mac, you're up.
Oh,
Oh wait.
yeah, exactly.
Is there any ups to talk about for the Canucks in that one? Other than, I mean, one's obvious probably.
Oh, thank God we got him signed for the next 5 years. Let me tell you that for free.
Woo.
Holy Lankinen.
13
Thank
shots.
goodness. You know what? Hedel looked all right. Tried to generate some rushes. Unfortunately, Besser was kind of caught behind the play on that one. Looked like we maybe could have got a 2-on-1, but Hedel was a few steps ahead of him, and Besser's obviously not going to catch up. He's not the fleetest of foot, but he tried his
Did you see what
best.
speed he hit, though? He was moving at 37.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was capable of that.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that tells you how fast Hedel is.
Mm-hmm.
And hell of a back check for an injured Petey on Eichel there.
Yep.
To kind of disrupt the pass just enough. Like you could see him waiting to time the tap on the stick, and help break up that 2-on-1 chance. But my God, we got to clean up the penalties. You're flirting with disaster against Vegas when you're doing that. And we got to start getting the play down in the other end of the ice. But when you take 3 minor penalties in the first period, the majority of the play is going to be in your end. So not entirely surprising that the shots are 13-5, but thank goodness for Lankinen, because it could be, 2-3-0 right now.
I'm going to call the 3 penalties in the first period an up, because that means that there's going to be a makeup call at some point. And you got to think the next call is going to go in the Canucks' favor. And, maybe they can make something of it.
You would hope that, but I mean, how do you make a makeup call for those 3 penalties? Like, it's not like there was a hooking and a couple of high stickings and like stuff going the other way. It's like, nope, you guys got 6 people out here, sorry, and you shot that one over the glass. It's like, you can't even, like, Vegas hasn't really done anything to warrant a penalty against them. Like, it's been a pretty clean game other than the 3 boneheaded moves that the Canucks made.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and like Tyler Myers, just, kind of a panic play, not really into the flow of things, probably still just a step behind with the break and right over the glass. It's going to get called every time.
He had a couple of moments even before that where it's rusty. I mean, he was the cause of the very first too many men penalty as well by not changing. He decided to just stay out there. And so that's definitely signs of rust, some communication issues. Holy, do we need a centerman that can win a faceoff?
Mm-hmm.
That we got absolutely torched.
Sub 20%
there. You look at that and you're like, oh, is that how many shots on goal? Nope, that's the faceoff percentage.
They would be happy with 17 shots on goal, but yeah, 17.6% in the faceoff dot in the first period. I think that is the worst total I've seen ever in this entire time we've been streaming.
You're not going to control a lot of the play when that's happening. So there's a lot for the coaches to go in and talk about in the intermission, because they owe it to Lankinen to come out with a little bit of fire in the second period here.
Yeah. The other up I'll give up is that they didn't give up a goal. And no matter how that happened, exactly. They didn't come out of that first period down a goal, which is huge, especially in Vegas, where they clearly, which I thought they were playing in Vancouver tonight for some reason when I was doing the stats earlier. But the other one I did like too was they did have 9 hits. So regardless of the fact that they didn't have the puck, they were at least smoking guys when they did have the puck.
Yeah, a couple of good ones too. Sherwood with a couple of good pops and a couple of good reads on the penalty kill. So to kill 3 penalties in the first period on the road, first game back after the long break. I mean, yeah, the momentum was against us a bit, but you kind of expect that. The home team's jazzed up. They got their home crowd and fans, and it is Vegas. It's one of the hardest buildings to play in, just because it is loud and the show is part of the atmosphere there. So it's stuff that you can, use to build momentum coming out of the locker room and say, hey, we're still tie game. Like, we get the first one. This is a very different game. Doesn't matter. His shots 13-5. Lanky held us in that one. Let's go out there fast, hard in the first 5 minutes of the second period and get one on the board, and then start playing our game. Because if we can get the first one, we can settle in and start driving the play like we were doing before the break.
You mentioned briefly when we were talking the ups and downs about the trio, or at least Petey's injury. He was listed as a day-to-day game time decision. He is playing tonight. One of 3 players that is currently dealing with something on the Canucks. Well, I mean, there's probably more, but the 3 that are publicly dealing with something. Let's start with Petey then. What are you thinking? What is his limitations going to be? Are we just pushing him too far? Should he be sitting? Like, what are you thinking about Petey right now with his knee?
It's tough because tendonitis is a funny thing. It can flare up, it can go away, it can change with the weather. Katie, my partner, has an issue in her shoulder, and some days she's brought to tears just for no reason whatsoever. It's just that much pain. So he's likely doing cortisone shots or different things, physiotherapy. He's probably doing all sorts of stuff. There were pictures of him icing his knee in between periods during the Four Nations. It was nice to see that speed going straight ahead. I think it hurts him more when he's cutting. I noticed it early in the season and then late last season when he plants on the right leg. When he tries to plant or brace himself on it, that's when it looks like it hurts. So I'm thinking it's like a side ligament or something like that. And straight ahead doesn't seem to hinder him as much. So maybe there's a little to that situation. And if we weren't in a playoff spot, part of me wonders if they shut him down for the season and then get him healthy and let him have a proper off season. Because we did hear recently from his agent how he didn't get to train this offseason. And yes, he did come into camp out of shape and not in the shape that he wanted to be in. Like, he's been transparent about all of that stuff. He's not denying any of the struggles. That's the thing. He's not sitting there saying, hey, I'm doing great. Like, he's saying, it's a process. I'm working hard to get back. I'm frustrated. But he wants to do it. So, we'll see how far this injury goes. We'll see if he comes out a little bit lame in the second period after that hard back check. But yeah, it's clearly been an issue for the entire season. But now it's a little more obvious now that some cameras caught him icing it during the Four Nations. And then the last game of the Four Nations, he only played 2 shifts in the third period, only had about 9 minutes of ice time. A lot of people thought it was like play related, but I mean, it's the Four Nations. No one's getting benched in the Four Nations Cup. Like, yeah. Just to be clear, the only reason you're not playing in that tournament is if you're ailing. So right. Wasn't entirely surprising.
Quinn Hughes not playing tonight.
Yep.
Do you think is part of this maybe them? Is he not ready to go, or are they like, okay, we have to make it very clear that he could not have played for the USA?
Could be a little of playing chess in the public eye, but I do think he probably was pushing it a little hard to go. So I think it's a little of both. I think he's very close to being ready, but it's also he's your star guy, so you don't want to rush him into a situation when we're in an okay spot right now. If we get 2 points out of this game, or say we get 2 out of 4 points this weekend, then Hughes can come back after this back-to-back and we're still in an okay spot. He gets a couple extra days of rest, and maybe he comes back and that wrist is healthy as well. He's taking full practices, right? So he shed the non-contact jersey, and he's in a regular jersey. So I would expect he's very close to getting back in, but they obviously want to be careful, because if we do get into a playoff run here, we want Quinn as healthy as he possibly can be within a NHL season, which, he may not get to 100% in this time off, but even 95% Quinn Hughes is going to be a hell of a player, right? So yeah. You got to obviously keep him off the ice as long as you can, but he's going to want to get back in that lineup the second he gets the okay from the doctors.
Yeah. So the next topic relates to the previous topic. Kevin Lankinen signed a deal. Do you think that has anything to do with Thatcher Demko's status currently?
Well, yeah. I mean, Dempo's had a very tumultuous season when it comes to his injury. It's like he starts to get on a run, starts to get some confidence, and then he's injured again. It's been 3 times now he's tried to get back in the lineup and has exited with some sort of flare up or different injury. First it was back spasms, now it's a groin. Yeah, is it just a bad luck season, or is maybe his body shutting down on him and he might just unfortunately have a short career because of some health issues? Luckily, Lankinen is locked up now for 5 years with some very, very tidy work by Alvin to get that done. You know, Lankinen talked about it. His agent was on a show and talked about how no one wanted him in the summer, and it came right down to the Canucks, and they had some very good talks and negotiation, and so you know they were willing to have really patient negotiation with the Canucks, and I think they left a lot of money on the table with him taking $4.5 million. I mean, if he goes to July 1st, you got to think a team's throwing $6 million at Kevin Lankinen to be their starting goalie. There's plenty of teams that would take him in the blink of an eye. So it was just very good work to have him locked up. We now have him and Demko next year again. If Demko struggles, then at least we have some security in the net. He has no movement clause for the first 2 years, I believe, and then the final 3 years is a 15 team. But I mean, very, very manageable contract. Have absolutely no issues with the 2 years of no movement. He has for sure earned this extension with his play this year. I mean, this was not supposed to be the ask for Kevin Lankinen. I mean, he was signed this season to be the backup to Artur Shilovs until Demko returned. Like, and now he's the bona fide starter, and even questioning when Demko comes back if he gives up the net. Like, that's absolutely incredible. So I've been very pleased that we got him locked up, and look forward to seeing him in more games in the future.
Let the chef cook. Canadian wrap up. So there's a couple things I wanted to chat about with you about just to wrap up Team Canada, Four Nations face off. Canada wins it. The first thing I wanted to talk about was John Cooper's speech after the game. And he said, Canada needed a win. What does that mean for you?
I think there's just so much that has happened for Canada. I mean, even without the political issues in the United States, we have our own political issues up here. I mean, Trudeau has resigned. Parliament hasn't been operating. There's just been so much that's kind of been happening up here. We're kind of in limbo with our government. We don't really know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to be the leader of Liberals. Like, there's all sorts of questions. And so, you know, to feel like you're under attack by a troll who just thinks he can say whatever he wants, and you don't really have a leader at that time, it's a little bit scary, right? And you feel intimidated, and when they start to throw the 51st state talk out there and things, it's like, no, guys, like, come on. Like, we are still a country. Like, we are here. It just was so important. It just meant so much more than a hockey game. Like, that goal meant so much more to Canadians than Americans. And you go on the internet afterwards and you see the Americans complaining about it. It's like, oh, Canada circles this game on their calendar every year. And it's like, this game isn't played every year. This was the first time it was played. And it just shows you how much they just kind of glom on to the media and that, and how much of it was raw American arrogance and banter. And to Canada, it just means so much more. It's just like, it is our game, and we're going to defend it until we're bleeding.
We can circle the championship game in any hockey tournament on our calendars because we will always be in the championship game of any international tournament. So that's why we can circle that. Not because we're playing the Americans. We don't give a crap who we're playing, but we're going to be there. It's us versus the world the majority of the time.
We're going to forget about the 2025 World Juniors. Do
they still play that tournament?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing,
though.
The one thing
other thing. Next year, the Olympics are going to be
awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Like, oh my God. That I will have marked on the calendar.
Yeah, so speaking of the Olympics, that's the other thing I want to ask you about. Moving to Italy next year, the Olympics happening. Who do you think gets kicked off the team, and who do they get replaced by moving into a new year and a new tournament?
I think the biggest changes you'll probably see are in net. I mean, yes, thank you, Binnington, for that overtime and showing up in the finals and really making that win happen. But realistically, Logan Thompson should have been the goalie for Canada in that tournament. And if he has the same season that he has next year, he will likely be the starting goalie for Canada going into the Olympics. And we might even see, Darcy Kemper make the team, given the way he has played this year. Mackenzie Blackwood in Colorado has been unreal since his trade. Actually, he's been unreal all year. He was just playing for San Jose at the beginning of the year and was getting bad stats because San Jose sucks. So I think those will be the biggest changes. Maybe a couple changes on the blue line, but I don't see a lot of different faces up front happening. Maybe some of the younger guys, Celebrini and that, because they'll be 1 year older, but it will be interesting to see. I'm excited for sure. It's nice to see that we were able to hang in there, but we also have to remember that the U.S. might have some reinforcements next year as well, in specifically the name of Quinn Hughes. So it will be a heck of a tournament, and I look forward to the NHL players getting back to the Olympic Games.
Didn't have time for the Abbey Canucks. We'll cover that in the post-game show. But until then, Dustin, enjoy the second and third period, and we'll talk to you soon, brother.
You as well. We'll see you then.
Nothing is perfect.